former University of Illinois running back, Rashard Mendenhall. So he was a spokesman for Champion, right? Back before we killed Osama Bin Laden. And then he had those tweets after he killed Osama Bin Laden, and he had two crazy ones. There were the celebrations after Bin Laden was killed, which made many of us uncomfortable. But there were the celebrations, and Mendenhall tweeted, "What kind of person celebrates death? It's amazing how people can hate," capitalized, "a man they've never even heard speak. We only heard one side."
Yeah.
The first part of the tweet, "What kind of person celebrates death?" Hey, you're engaged in a reasonable conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. That's a reasonable point to make.
Now.
Right, you're on board. It's amazing how people can hate a man they never even heard speak. Well, we heard him speak, and it's okay to hate that man. In fact, you should hate that man.
That's what he's looking for.
He wanted you to hate him. Right? That's a good point. And then we've only heard one side. No, we heard his side.
Yeah.
We heard his side very clearly. So he's a moron. And then
You're a moron.
And then he said, "We'll never know what really happened. I have a hard time believing a plane could take a skyscraper down, demolition style." But that's just ignorant. That's not what probably got him suspended by.
It might have been the whole, we haven't heard what Osama Bin Laden said.
We've only heard, right, exactly. That seems more, because if that's the case, because this is a great point in this piece. Who wrote this piece? Do you know?
Darren Rovell of CNBC.
Right, Darren Rovell of CNBC Sports Business. It's a great piece because he points out is that Hanes, which owns Champion, they did not get rid of Charlie Sheen. They had no problem hiring Charlie Sheen, despite the fact that Charlie Sheen, by the way, got all these credit from some people some conspiracy theorists who believed that there's much more to 9/11 than was in the 9/11 report. And Charlie Sheen was there they thought was a big champion of their cause. Charlie Sheen has said, "It seems to me like 19 amateurs with box cutters taking over 4 commercial airliners and hitting 75% of their targets. That feels like a conspiracy theory," he said on a radio show in 2006. I think he was on Alex Jones. It raises a lot of questions. Sheen has been very clear in doubting that version of events. I love it how that Sheen was sort of hailed then. Like now you're like, maybe that wasn't the guy. You should have sort of, "Hey man, we got Charlie Sheen."
He's on our side.
He's on our side. He's a huge star. It's fantastic. Charlie Sheen is with us.
But he was dropped in 2010 because of domestic violence charges.
Yeah, but it was the domestic violence that got him dropped. No,
Right.
he'd done this stuff back in 2006, and they hired him after that.
I think they must take a gauge of what, I mean, but the story is Mendenhall was dropped from the same company. So the thing is I think maybe they take a gauge of how the reactions are going. The reactions maybe weren't so harsh against Charlie Sheen and going, "Oh, he's a spokesman for Champs or Hanes."
Right.
So they're okay with it. I think you get a lot less leeway if you're Rashard Mendenhall.
Yeah, no,
you say one thing and they're like, "Oh, fucking dumb athlete." There's a direct thought.
I think you're right. I think you've made two great points. I think that's a great point, but also obviously it's different when you say we haven't heard Osama bin Laden's side. Charlie Sheen couldn't have survived that.
Could have done that part.
But Charlie Sheen could survive a lot more than Rashard Mendenhall. Big Hollywood celebrity.
Yeah.
And then, and you want to bring race into a little bit, like big, giant, white, wildly popular Hollywood celebrity, black athlete that people don't even really know who he is.
Right. Right.
But that said, so he gets fired. Now he's suing Champion, Hanes, because he says that they owe $1 million over the next 5 years, and they breached their contract by suing him, saying they had no right to sue him. The suit involves core question of whether an athlete employed as a celebrity endorser loses the right to express opinions simply because the company whose product he endorses might disagree with some or not all of those opinions. It's a totally fascinating issue. And it's a proof that whatever lawyer speaks last, I tend to believe. Because like you say that, and I'm like,
exactly.
I'm like, you can't take Rashard Mendenhall's First Amendment rights away. The voice of the voiceless.
And it automatically maybe goes to the point where you'll see in any kind of thing where they say, the people working with so-and-so company, we don't necessarily sponsor their words or their actions, whatever that normal legal term is that they always use. We don't necessarily agree.
Right. So, and you figure that that's good enough.
Right.
But then they, of course, when they fired him, they said that they respected his right to sincere thoughts regarding potentially controversial topics, but they no longer believe Mr. Mendenhall could appropriately represent Champion. And then the contract says they can terminate him if he commits or is arrested for any crime or involved in any situation, not a crime obviously, but involved in any situation or occurrence tending to bring Mendenhall into public disrepute, contempt, scandal, or ridicule, or tending to shock, insult, or offend the majority of the consuming public. And then you read that and you're like, now they can fire him.
Yeah. Because that was when I first heard it. I said, is there some kind of clause in his contract that says if you say something that offends enough people, we can get rid of you?
Totally. I mean,
it's kind of exactly
like,
what
it's
it
right
says.
here. Disrepute, contempt, scandal, maybe not scandal, ridicule, definitely, tending to shock.
The last part.
Yep. Insult or offend the majority of the consuming public.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously a company can fire a spokesman if the spokesman
pisses off the customers.
Yeah, I mean, how are they like, no, we hired him. You got to keep selling our sweatshirts, even though everyone hates you.
Yeah, I mean, this is a company instead of the government. He can get fired and then go back on Twitter and say, yeah, Osama Bin Laden, we have not heard his side yet.
Okay, so where do you draw the line in what an athlete can say and express their own opinions on their own mind? Where do you draw the line?
Well, what, black athletes or white athletes?
Maybe white actors.
Think of Rick always like rolls his eyes like, what do you think, I'm serious?
Sometimes, yeah. You're that big of an idiot. Yeah, I do.
Well, black athletes, let's start with them. Very much smaller rope.
You know what I think of you, Ben?
Oh, no.
You're an idiot!
Good one. I mean, where do you draw the line? Here's why I hate that question. Because you draw the line where you draw the line. I mean, we're reasonable people. We have the power to reason. Rashard Mendenhall, when he said we haven't heard Osama Bin Laden's side, in the immediate aftermath of killing the guy responsible for killing 3,000 Americans, for whom we went to war to fight against, when you talk about how that we haven't heard his side, hey, man, that's going to get you fired. It just is. That's a line right there.
I kind of wish they would specify which part of it really was. If it was the Osama Bin Laden line or if it was the 9/11. I'm kind of skeptical.
I'm sure
of that
they'll
line.
go with the Osama Bin Laden because they're going to think the same thing about Charlie Sheen. They'll leave out the. I mean, but I mean, we're making the same reasonable standard they did. I suspect if we'd been there, we'd be like, Rashard, what is with we've only heard one side? What is with the? Be controversial. Talk about the celebrating in the street.